What is up, guys? Dzeeff here, and on Monday there was a new TCG ban list revealed. This won't go into effect until July 1st, but when that happens, there's going to be some pretty big changes. I hope you guys watched my reaction video to that ban list. Make sure to do that if you haven't already, but in today's video, I want to go over some decks that were buffed either directly or indirectly from this ban list. Now, I like to clarify in these videos that I'm never saying that all the decks that I mention will be meta contenders. I'm simply talking about the decks that are better off after the ban list changes. By the way, if you guys are buying any new cards because of the ban list and maybe you want to try out a new deck, make sure to use my link to tcgplayer.com. It'll be in the description below. That does help out the channel quite a bit, so I appreciate it when you guys use that link. Anyway, I don't really have a particular order for the decks in today's video, but let's talk about Pendulum Magicians. Now, I know that Pendulums do have a very dedicated fan base, but let's be honest, Pendulums have been pretty bad for quite a while, and I feel like they got some much needed support from this ban list. You now have Skullcrobat Joker back in the game, only at 1 copy, but still that is going to help, and you now have 2 copies of Double Iris Magician. I think that Double Iris will probably go to 3 copies per deck on the next ban list, but having 2 copies right now does help out. One change that I see happening because of this new ban list is that Performapals look a lot better now because of Skullcrobat Joker being back in the game. This is a very interesting card that can search a Performapal or a Magician or an Odd Eyes monster from your deck to your hand, so you have a lot of different options. Keep in mind, while we only have 1 copy of Skullcrobat Joker, you do still have 3 copies of Performapal Pendulum Sorcerer, which can add Joker to your hand. Pendulums might not be a top tier contender with only these changes, but they do have a few more tools at their disposal. Next up, we have Salamanders with Mirage Stalio coming back at 1 copy per deck. Now, Salamanders weren't terrible after Mirage got banned. They saw play here and there, especially with cards like the new Code Talker support that we got after Mirage was banned. However, now that Mirage is back, the deck is going to be better than it has been in a long time. Mirage gives you access to whatever Salamanders monster you want in your deck. It's also a compulse if you use it for a Salamanders link summon, and it gives the deck a lot of versatility, and I think they really needed that. By having access to cards like Gazelle right from your deck, the consistency really does go up. I played Salamanders back when they were at full power with 3 Gazelle and 3 Circle, and while I personally moved on once Gazelle and Circle went to limited, I think the deck was still great and a lot of people played it at tournaments. Once Mirage was banned though, a lot of players jumped ship, and I think that's understandable. The card is very good for Salamanders players, but now we have it back and a lot of people are going to want to try out Salamanders once again. One of the things that Salamanders were known for was playing a lot of hand traps, and I think people are expecting hand traps to be very good in the upcoming format, so Salamanders are a very appealing deck for a lot of players. One of the more polarizing changes on this ban list was bringing back Engage to 1 copy per deck. Now, you guys probably already know this, but I absolutely hate this card, but even I have to admit that with only 1 copy of Engage, the deck is a lot less scary. It was pretty frustrating to play against Sky Strikers when they had 3 copies of Engage. Oftentimes you would see those 3 copies used in a single turn, and there'd be extra activations because they could add them back to their hand with cards like Kagari. So you would see a ton of searches and a ton of draws in the same turn. I still have no idea why Sky Striker Engage is not a hard once per turn, but I think bringing it back at only 1 copy per deck is a pretty good choice on Konami's part. I think even at semi-limited, the card gets a lot better, but at 1 copy per deck, you are usually only going to see 2 activations in 1 turn, the initial Engage activation, and then obviously the Kagari can recycle it for a second activation. But without those crazy 3 or 4 Engage turns, Sky Strikers might not be good enough to compete with modern decks. However, they might be splashed into other decks. I've seen people talk about playing them in decks like Eldritch, for example, and that could be pretty viable. Engage is obviously still a very strong card, even if it's only at 1 copy per deck. I really do hope Konami leaves Engage Engage limited for a long time. I do not want to play against multiple copies of this card, but for right now, I feel like Sky Strikers are in a pretty good spot. They can play a lot of hand traps, they can play a lot of floodgates, and now with one copy of Engage, the deck gets a lot more consistent. I don't think Sky Strikers are going to be top tier, but they should be a pretty good rogue deck in the upcoming format. Let's talk about some decks that got buffed indirectly because the ban list did not hit any of their cards. For example, Dogmatica Invoke Shaddoll is going to be very good and probably very popular in the upcoming format. It was already doing quite well, maybe not as good as some of the other decks, but Winda is a very strong card. It's really good against any combo deck, and I think people are going to want to play combo decks in the upcoming format. So watch out for Dogmatica Invoke Shaddoll. They're only going to get better after this ban list. Now I do feel like this deck will get addressed on a future ban list, but as I mentioned a few weeks ago, I think that Konami didn't want to hit it on this ban list because I'm assuming many of the cards will get reprinted in the upcoming Mega Tin, and they're going to be big selling points of those tins if they are actually in there. Nadir's Servant is definitely one of the bigger reprints that could be in the Mega Tins. I suppose right now we don't have confirmation if it's in there, but I feel like it probably will be. We do know they are reprinting Rise of the Duelist, and that is one of the bigger secrets from that set. And if that gets reprinted in there, a lot more people are going to want to play with the Dogmatica engine, so why hit it before those cards get reprinted? But after that, and after people have had a chance to play with that card, I'm not sure if Konami will leave it at 3 because it is a very powerful spell. Prank Kids were a very good deck last format. They've topped a bunch of extravaganzas, and they took no hits on this ban list. They are a very consistent deck that basically only needs to draw any one of their monster cards to start off their entire combo, and I think that a lot of people are going to play this deck in the upcoming format. And finally, that brings us to Drytron. This deck was already performing quite well. They just got new support out of Lightning Overdrive that is very powerful, and now they have no hits from this ban list while the other decks took hits. This deck is very capable going first or second. It can combo off on turn 1, make a pretty unbreakable board, or it can go second and break your opponent's board and OTK. So I feel like Drytrons are going to be one of the best decks in the upcoming format, and I think you'll have to side deck against them pretty heavily. Droll Mockbird will likely be a very popular card. Anyway, that is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below which deck you're looking to try out with this new ban list. I'll see you later. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.